All right, we should be recording. All right, so welcome everyone. How'd you like the reading? Have you guys already had to read that article before? Because I've had it come up myself in other classes.
Oh, okay. That was my first time.
Yeah, that was my first time as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never read it.
What class did you have to read it for?
It was called Business Fundamentals. So it was just, we're put into a team situation and we work with a business simulator and we have to make like executive choices throughout the whole semester. So.
Oh, that's weird because I just took that class during summer and I don't recall having to read that.
I mean, it could have just been my professor. He just dug
okay.
up stuff like that. So, any thoughts from it? Like just from the get-go, were you guys impressed by it? Because the first time I read it, I was really inspired, and I thought it was super cool.
I think it's pretty cool. I'm kind of laughing just because the questions for the meeting now make more sense.
Right? Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh. And now I'm like, oh, that's what Sakaguchi is. So still kind of palm of the foreheading, but it was a cool article. I liked how it kind of meshed kind of the psychology of just kind of like, not to sound nerdy, but the game theory and psychology between people and really how it just affects all aspects of human socializing, whether it's professionally or personally, and just what efforts and cultures are instilled, how that affects everything else. So the other thing I thought was really cool too was kind of midway through the article, it brought up how modern work and modern businesses require much more socializing or working in teams anyways, and I thought that was kind of cool.
Perfect. Any other thoughts? All right. If not, that's okay. We can just get started with like the actual discussion questions. So the first one that we're going to go over, which probably will be familiar because we went over this last week accidentally. It says, from your personal experience, what have been key behaviors in effective teams?
Something I thought was interesting they brought up with one of the groups was how they would keep interrupting each other and they'd also get annoyed or dislike each other's ideas, and then eventually the team leaders would kind of be like, okay, wait your turn. And it seems sort of trivial, but I know a few people, even in like my own family, who really hate being interrupted. And I think that also, that's just kind of an interesting behavior because everybody should and wants to have their 2 cents put in, and I think it also it circulates a lot more well-rounded ideas, so a better product or a better idea can be developed.
Nice.
Well, for my personal experience, the primary key behavior have been mutual respect, compassion, integrity, and open communication.
Mm-hmm.
If each member of the team have compassion for each other, the team member understand each other better.
Oh yeah.
Perfect. That was great, Soraya. Good job. I have so much respect for people like learning to speak English, especially in school. Sorry, just like a little soap opera moment. I served my mission over in Germany, and I had no idea what it was like to live in a country where you didn't understand the language until I went there. And so many missionaries in my mission thought about going to Germany for school, and you have to speak German fluently if you're going to do that. And it was such an intimidating thought. So I totally like hands down respect you, Soraya. That's amazing that you're working
Sorry
it. Like,
for my English. My English is bad.
No,
but
it's
I'm
not.
trying.
No, it sounds great. It sounds way better than my German would have sounded if I went to school with that. Like,
Your pronunciation is really good too. Like I can kind of relate to Dora a little bit. I went to Poland on my mission, so neighbors, and we had people from all over the world coming to universities there, and I'm just amazed at how well people can pick up languages. So my hat's off to you too. That's awesome. and your pronunciation again is really good. So
Okay, Dora, a little
Thank you,
side
sis.
note. So where is you, or where did you serve in Germany? That's what I was trying to ask.
Oh, you're good. I was in Frankfurt, so that's the middle mission of the country.
Okay, so my little sister's actually serving there right now.
No,
So-
no
That's so
way.
cool.
Do you know what city she's in?
What was that?
Do you know what city she's in?
Oh shoot. I think it's called like Mikkelstadt or something like that.
Yeah. Like
So-
it rings a bell. I never served in that spot. It's such a big mission. It's huge.
But she's
so.
been out like 7 months. She loves it so far. So
Nice.
that's so cool. That was one of the stops I took. Like that was one of the airports I stopped off on my way home from my mission. So that's kind of funny.
That's so neat. Oh my gosh.
It's a small world.
Good times. Ugh, I miss it. I want to go back so bad. But any other thoughts, like big behavior, like factors that really helped out your teams in the past to actually function?
I just think for me, I was thinking about one of my groups that I had probably 2 semesters ago in one of my classes.
Mhm.
And we just really got to know each other well. Like not necessarily just in the group setting, but also like things about our personal lives and you know, different interests we had. And I think that really helped the group thrive as a whole, because we just were able to, you know, relate to each other than just talking about group assignments and stuff. I like, it was funny. I actually ran into a member of that group, like I think last week,
Mhm.
and it was like I was seeing an old friend. Like it was really cool. So I think it's just cool to be able to form friendships like that, and actually, if you can form that friendship, then you work more effectively together. So
Perfect. I totally agree. I guess an experience I had myself with working in a group, it was that same class, the business fundamentals. Reading this article from the beginning of the semester really helped us throughout the whole semester, because it wasn't a week or 2 later after our group was created that we realized that none of us really had much in common or wanted to be together. And we're like, well, dang it, we're in it for the long haul, so we better figure out something. And so we started like working on any little thing, like celebrating birthdays or just checking up with how certain things went throughout the week, and just different things where we could relate that way. And the more we did that, the more successful we got, the more comfortable we got. But we really had to work at it from the beginning, because there were a lot of opportunities to just not get along. And so like little factors like that count for a lot, I guess, in the long run. What about Ernesto or Cassidy? Do you have any comments on that question?
Yeah, I think one of the things, and I made a similar comment last week, but it's important to consider that there's more than one way of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to consider everybody's opinion, even though you may not agree with it. You know, it's been my experience as well, you know, working in groups and other classes, that I thought, you know, maybe we should, you know, attack, you know, the problem in a certain way. And a couple of the people, you know, disagreed with me. And, you know, just to not, you know, cause any conflict or anything, I decided to go along and ended up, you know, being that it was a much simpler solution than what I was thinking in my mind. So I think it's important. What I learned from that is, you know, just because, you know, you have a way of doing things that you'll eventually get to the right solution, doesn't mean that there isn't a more efficient way to do it. So I think it's just a matter of being willing and open to listen to other people and be willing to try new things.
Perfect. Thank you. What about you, Cassidy? Any thoughts?
I'm going to be honest, I have a very angry puppy that was running around, so I didn't hear anything until I just sat down.
Oh, you're good.
So,
That's fine.
sorry, I'm not, my husband's not here right now, so I'm trying to corral her, and it's not easy. So,
That's okay.
sorry.
No problems. I could ask you the question again if that helps.
Sure.
Okay. So in your past experience with working in teams, what key behaviors have been most helpful to you in helping your team to collaborate and work together?
I think that the thing that I've noticed the most, at least with the team that I'm working with right now at work, is if we can just like patience. I think at least recently that's been a huge thing because there hasn't really been a lot in my department, like with certain things. And so everybody's been getting super frustrated and it hasn't helped us like work as a group. And so that's something that's really stuck out to me is like the people who are impatient cause a lot of friction because there's a lot of change and there's a lot of, I don't know, like they just get so irritated really fast.
Right.
And that is something that I've noticed.
Yeah, for sure. That works great. Yeah. Sometimes the best like factors that work in a team are the ones that you notice you don't have, and then like you take that experience and you learn from it and then you apply it to whatever teams you get into in the future. So yeah, sometimes the lack thereof is the best lesson there is, I guess. Let's see, the next question that we have, what do group norms have to do with effective team building? What would you say our group norms in this team would be?
I think along the lines of group norms, something I've been thinking about a lot are expectations. And I think if everyone has similar expectations or standards, they'll kind of act a certain way. Like I was kind of thinking about like missionary companionships and whatnot on missions, and there's the set schedule, there's the same stuff that everyone's doing, whether it's contacting or tracting or whatever it is you're doing. There's all these norms, and I think that kind of instills in behavior. And obviously people can vary from that too, but I think those expectations or standards that people get used to will kind of affect how people think and act, not like in a bad way per se, but just it kind of develops culture and habits, I think too. Like how do we communicate? Okay, we do this at this time. It's almost like I think it kind of induces like strategy thinking too, like in business or whatever it is, even in missions. You kind of have your strategies because you're used to your expectations or what the standards are too, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
I really like the point you brought up, Suzanne, about how, I don't know, norms kind of set the stage for things to come. Essentially, they kind of set the expectations, I guess is a good way to put it. I think about like different, classes I've been in or different groups I've been in. Usually after, 2 or 3 classes or 2 or 3 meetings, you can tell, is this going to be like a hard class? Is this going to be an effective group? Are we going to get stuff done? And so I think if you really can start by establishing a good set of norms and then just kind of going off of those, then it really sets you up for success. Whereas if you create the norm that something is, if you create the norm of being ineffective, then that's going to create a bad taste in everybody's mouth. So
almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy kind of.
Right.
Yeah, one thing I think along with that is, setting realistic expectations and, having everybody, pull their own weight to really help and make sure that your team can rely on, the assignments that each individual is given. Unfortunately, I've been part of other teams where, people are given assignments and they don't come through and ends up hurting the productivity of the team. And so sometimes those are some challenges to have to work through. But I think it's important to just make sure that you follow through on your commitments, on the commitments that you make to the rest of the team.
I'd agree. It really detracts from morale when, the majority is not motivated and there's just like nobody really cares about what they're contributing or what the end result will be. They just want to get it done and go home. And so, yeah, like being able to actually be motivated is huge. And if you don't have that in a team, then your effectiveness is down like easy 50%, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. It kind of made me think of what you just said. There's a talk in conference about being fed but not nourished. And I think it kind of goes through that. Like each class, we're going to do assignments, and that's kind of part of the deal. But really the purpose of the class is to, get something out of it and have that help us in our profession. And so I think group meetings, they can either be, we can either be fed from them or we can actually be nourished. And we can either go through the motions and get the work done, or we can actually take those to heart and really get something out of it. So I think
that's a good connection. Well done.
Thanks. I've been thinking about that all day, or all week. So.
That's awesome. I still haven't read all of the conference address or conference talks yet. I saw a bit of them, but my husband did a Tough Mudder on the Saturday, and so I missed all of Saturday pretty much, and then Sunday I watched most of it, but I think I missed a whole lot on Saturday. Any other thoughts though? Cassidy, what group norms have you experienced in the group that you're working with that are so negative? Because there's a lack of patience, but what other group norms can you identify that we can learn from?
I think, let's see, a group norm. I don't know if this would be considered a norm, maybe in some way, but like communication as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you can make that a norm, then you can communicate everybody's roles, everybody's like what they need to get done, and then you can also like create goals for your team as well through communication. Because I think when there's a breakdown in that, then you don't work like a well-oiled machine or as a team. And so that's what I think, I guess.
Right. Is it difficult in that team to really approach people with questions at all? Is that a struggle, would you say?
I would say certain people, yes. Because I work on a team of like 12 girls.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very interesting to see like who is easy to ask questions to or maybe give a little bit of guidance to and who's not.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very, when you feel like you can't communicate with somebody, it's easy to like, I don't know, it kind of makes it like you have to kind of tiptoe around them. And it's just, you shouldn't be mean, but you shouldn't be, you shouldn't be afraid to talk to somebody about anything. So.
Right. Where do you work?
I work at Les Olson Company. It's just a local company. I work in the service department.
Mm-hmm.
So I bill a bunch of printer contracts.
Nice. Okay.
That was the thing until I worked there. So we're all just kind of trying. We all have a goal to get our stuff done at the end of the month. And we all have different workloads in different ways. So we have like a lot of, and we all sit together in one big group. So yeah.
It can be so rough to work in like a crowd of women. because
Yeah.
we are really good at being catty. Like, I'll be the first
Yes.
to admit that. I'm sorry.
So Cassidy, let me ask you, do you think it's because people are trying to kind of show off and get ahead of each other? So maybe in a way, if they help, they want to be the one that looks, the best to the boss, or are they different departments and, there's just conflict between the departments?
Well, it's like, I don't know, because I think some people, yes, some people no. I mean, I'm just kind of there to get my job done. Like, I want to do my job well, and I just want to, meet what I need to meet. But I think, I don't know. I think it's just, I don't know if I think there's some people who try to be like the best and try to show off, but I think what's caused the most turmoil lately is just there's been some shift in like job duties, and this one specific person who's had the biggest shift, her job affects all of us. And so when she doesn't show up or when she doesn't do her job, it kind of makes it harder for all of us, the rest of us, to do our job. And so it kind of breaks down where people get frustrated, and it's just bad, and it's really, really bad. And I don't know. So I think hopefully because it's interesting, because now that my management, because we have meetings like once a month or sometimes more. And so when we talk to our management and kind of complain, they do try to change things, but it's also like nothing's ever going to be perfect. Mm-hmm. So they, like, I don't know how to put it. So they're trying to like help us work as a team, but then also some people's communication skills are different than others, like some are more attacking than others. And so that kind of causes some conflict. So it's just pretty interesting. I don't know, because I'm just kind of a wallflower, you could say. I just kind of do what I do, and I help when I need to pitch in and everything else. But I don't know. I hope that answers your question. I don't know if it does, but I feel like I kind of just talk in circles. So sorry.
No, you're fine. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It's always hard to identify just one problem in a big thing like that. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of directions to point the finger of blame, I guess. But rough. I hope it gets better. That's kind of hard.
I think it will. I think they just did something that I think will help all of us. So I think it'll take the pressure off, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, hopefully.
I'll keep you posted.
Thanks. What about you, Soraya? Do you have any comments on question 2 about group norms and how they affect the team?
Sure. Yes, I think that it's important that everyone give a chance to speak, because everyone is able to share their opinions, I think.
For sure, that's really important. It's kind of cool being able to be like a virtual group, because literally as we communicate this way, you can't interrupt each other, or else when you do, you're like, wait, because it's going to get really confusing if we keep on trying to. So that's definitely important. Okay, how about the importance of psychological safety? Sorry, I just had a thing pop up, so we're good.
You're good. I think psychological safety is needed whenever correction is needed, and not like in a bad way, like you did this wrong, you need to fix this, not so severe even, but just like little mistakes that will affect things in the long run, but are just day-to-day stuff too. I mean, but I think it's really important to communicate when something isn't working. I'm in a construction company, and usually construction companies seem to be kind of like, blah, I need everything yesterday, and we can't do anything. Like, I kind of freaked out because I was like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with us? Because I was seriously concerned about our company. And I talked to one of my bosses. He's like, actually, we're not that bad. Some other companies are much worse than us. I was like, oh. And I thought that was funny. But being able to like bring up stuff when it isn't working, like something, despite all that, it is still kind of hectic. But I've been able to but like, I have the relationship with the two owners where they're both like, okay, if something needs to be fixed or something isn't working, you need to let us know. And they have that with everybody. It's not like I just get special treatment, but and I've been able to bring up, and it's not like a lot. It's just like every so often it's like, I'm trying to do this, but can you just do this? I'll make my job a little bit easier and I'll be more efficient. And we've been able to adjust things. So I think being able to say that helps a lot because, you know, everybody has insights as to what can be improved in something or become more efficient or just make whatever better. Because sometimes, like I think Ernesto brought up, you know, sometimes some ideas are good, but some other ideas are just better. And it's like a work smarter, not harder thing. And if people aren't able to talk about that, then your company's never, or your group, team, etc., is never going to be able to progress as much as it could. So I think being honest and the ability to be honest is a huge element of a group's potential.
For sure, yeah. I believe that. It's hard, like feeling safe enough to be honest with people is pretty hard, especially when you're intimidated by them. Yeah, I'm still here. Okay. Sorry, everybody's locking up and going home. Okay, see ya. Sorry. But I know situations for me when I haven't felt safe enough to just be honest and say what I mean. That's moments where I really start to assume and I get angry and I feel pressure and eventually I'm able to talk things out eventually because I can't live that way for very long. And I find out that everything I was stressing about was for nothing. And so that's definitely the big, like, stick in the spokes kind of thing. Any other thoughts on that?
Just on a side note, the other day I was reading an article about bullying at work and how, 75 to 80% of people have experienced some type of bullying at work, and it's usually through a manager or supervisor. Mm-hmm. And, first of all, how sad it is that so many people have to work in such rough environments. I've certainly been a part of a few organizations like that, but I've also been part of organizations that are great where, feedback is welcome and the organization is truly trying to establish a culture of excellence, and they want, to hear all ideas, even from the most junior members of the team. And anyway, so it just goes to show that it's detrimental to the productivity and efficiency of a team when people feel, bullied or they don't feel safe about being able to share an opinion or an idea.
I really like that a lot because, if from the very beginning, when you first enter a company, you don't feel confident enough to share your ideas, how will you ever be able to develop and feel confident enough to share those ideas as you rank up? Or will you ever rank up if you don't share ideas? So that's really crucial to instill that kind of confidence in your employees from the beginning.
Right. And I'm a firm believer in the fact that everybody has some sort of value that they can offer or provide, I guess. And, if the person doesn't feel comfortable opening up or asking questions, sharing ideas, then ultimately that limits the company, that limits the team from progressing further. So I like that.
Perfect. Soraya, do you have any thoughts on the third question?
Yes. When there is psychological safety in the team, then members can feel free to contribute without fear or punishment. Everyone is made to explore their ideas and work sharing. Everyone is willing to speak and add something to the project.
That is perfect. Are you still there? Did you get cut off, Soraya?
What?
Oh, there you are. Okay, I was making sure you were still there. You're good. You're good. I was just, I thought your microphone cut out, and so I was just making sure you're still on.
Oh,
But yeah, for sure. If you're not comfortable enough to share ideas, just like Ernesto said, like they won't flow. It won't be like a think tank. It'll be like, you know, the commander and his little soldiers behind him, and the soldiers don't know why they're doing what they're doing, but the commander is the only person. So that communication is key, feeling comfortable enough to really work as a team instead of as a, there's no I in team, you know. So yeah. What about Cassidy? Any thoughts on that? Feeling psychologically safe in a group of women?
Yes. Sorry, my puppy, the naughty puppy's back, so if you hear her,
Oh, it's
I
okay.
apologize.
Do you want to show her to us real quick? I want to see what she looks like.
Ruby. Okay. See if you can see her.
Oh, cute. So fun.
Yeah, she wants my food, so she's being naughty. Sorry.
You're good.
So I think, so one of the things that I actually love about my job is, oh my.
She really wants your food.
She's cute though.
Mhm.
She just wants to feel psychologically safe.
Well played.
Pay attention to me. I have stuff to say.
Cute.
oh.
I don't know if we can hear you, Cassidy. I think your mic's off. There we go. I wasn't sure if you were talking to your dog or. There you
No,
go.
you're good. Oh my gosh. Can you hear me now?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, she literally slapped her paw all over my keyboard.
Oh.
So one of the things that I love about my job is I actually love my boss, and I feel very safe with my boss. Like I feel like I can go to him with anything, whether it's like personal or with work, or like if I have any issues.
Mhm.
So I think that's one of the saving graces that I have at my job. But he's also actually the father of 3 or 4 girls, and I think he kind of knows. Like he's just the most patient man I've really ever met. So I think that plays a huge factor because I feel like I can voice any concern to him. Like if I've got stuff going on at my house with my family, or if I've got like other things going on with work, or if I'm having a hard time with stuff, like I don't know, if my workload's too stressful, that kind of stuff, I can like openly tell him that, and he will try to help me get through it, whatever it is, or like fix it.
Right.
So I think that plays a huge factor, and I'm really grateful that I've got that. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, guys. I promise next week will not be like this.
No, you're all good. No worries. For sure, though. It's so great to have that person that you feel safe enough to go to. I know I've had jobs where all of the friends that I have made there are scared of the person we're supposed to be reporting to, our supervisor. And so we're all like, ooh. And it was getting worse because we all had to go and tell her that we're leaving for school. So all of us were going out of state and had to quit our job. And I went first. I went booking it. I'm like, I'm getting it done with first. And so by the time the third person went and told her, she was like, mad. And so, yeah, I don't like it when I can't trust that the person will react well when I go to them about anything. Like, I need my employer to just be understanding. So, yeah, that's important. Dang. All right. What about the importance of being vulnerable to your team? So that means like sharing things that are going on, just showing people that you're human. Has anyone had any experiences with that in their team where it really kind of broke the ice and helped everyone realize, the people I'm supposed to work with are human, and they have emotions just like me? Has anyone had that experience?
We had an experience once at work where there was a team member that, we could just tell we were in a meeting. We could just tell they're just not being themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And, we finally just said, hey, is everything okay? I mean, they looked like they were about to start crying. Come to find out they had one of their children in the hospital.
Oh,
and
shoot.
One of the first questions I asked them, what are you doing here? If you have a child in the hospital, you should be with your child. The work should be the last thing on your mind.
Oh.
And they were kind of taken back. They hadn't been with the company very long. And I said, what are you waiting for? Get out of here. And they, afterwards they just came back. That meant the world to me. I said, look, family always comes first. We can always, catch you up on a meeting or send you an email with a meeting minutes and things like that. But I think being sensitive to, people's moods, you never know what other people may be going through. I mean, their world may be upside down.
Mm-hmm.
And, just being sensitive to that. I think that when it comes time to, when the pressure is on, those team members will remember those times and they'll deliver. So I think it's important to just be mindful and don't be so closed-minded about what's happening in your world. Realize that, other people have problems too, and work isn't always, everyone's top priority.
Mm-hmm. For sure. That's such a powerful experience. How cool. Like, I'm glad that that person had people surrounding them that they could actually get some help from and some sympathy, or empathy, either one. But I mean, life is messy. It doesn't matter what job you have or how many hours you work. Like, there's always a background, always a home base that might be falling apart and you just never even know it. I had a really good experience with this with an early morning seminary class that I teach. I teach a bunch of seniors and they're really snotty and mean, but that's okay. And I told them about a very personal experience, and it was the best lesson I've ever had, because like all of a sudden everyone was like, wow, like, you are human. Oh my gosh, you're not just a teacher. Like, you've experienced things like I've experienced. Like, it just levels the playing field and everybody's on the same pedestal. Everybody is suddenly aware of what other people are going through, because the mentality is, if I didn't realize that person was going through that, then who else have I overlooked? And so there's suddenly a big feeling of compassion towards each other when that kind of thing happens. Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just think it creates that emotional connection.
Mm-hmm.
Between, two different parties. And let's see, what else was I going to say? I kind of forgot my thought. Let's see here. But I think it creates that emotional connection, and I think it really just it kind of creates like in terms of like work and home. I feel like work should be just as much a home as home is, almost, because it's almost your home away from home. Like, you spend a lot of time at work, and if people understand the things that you're going through, they're able to, empathize with you and be able to, adjust how they treat you, how they react to certain situations, because they know what you're going through. And so I think it just helps the team work better together. So.
Perfect. Thank you. Soraya, did you have any thoughts about the fourth question?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Sharing appropriate personal experience can increase unity and validate or member feelings and experience. It brings the people together as they help one another. So, in my experience, uh, my coworkers and I will often share weekend plans. This is not only giving us things to talk about, but also helps to be more aware of each other and be involved with each other a little more.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much, Soraya. That's really good. I've never personally spent time outside of the workplace with people that I work with. I probably should, because maybe then I'd have more friends, but I'm just an introvert, so that's how I roll. But it's just a Christ-like motivator that we should have to reach out to people and really know how they're doing. It's that ministering spirit that we could really key into if we want to help other people out. Because no matter what, there was a quote by one of the apostles that said something to the extent of, if you talk to everyone as if they're going through some kind of turmoil, 99% of the time you'll be right. Because no matter what kind of turmoil we feel like we're going through, it feels like a big deal to us, even though the next person's turmoil is something way out of our abilities to handle.
I think it's interesting when people share personal experiences. Like, I do think there's a balance of like when it's appropriate and when it's not, but I think like everything that you guys have been sharing has been right in that appropriate, right timing kind of thing. But I think being able to talk about things kind of gives you insights into that person's character too. So like the person that went to the meeting with the sick child in the hospital, one, it's like, okay, they're really dedicated. One, because they're here and they know that they're being relied on for stuff, but at the same time, they're kind of like, oh my gosh, my kid's in the hospital for whatever reason. And I think that says a lot about that person. I would have had the same response, like, okay, well, you've just proven yourself trustworthy. You can go, we'll handle things. Because like a lot of people are flaky and there's nothing really personal to share with them because, I don't know, they don't build that trust, they don't build that experience with you. But I was also thinking about like missionary companionships a little bit and kind of laughed a little bit just thinking about like companionship studies. I don't know if the elders had this so much, but sister missionaries cry a lot in their companionship studies. And so, like, one will be crying like, oh my gosh, I was thinking about this and da da da, and the variety of things they might have cried about or like was like super wide and diverse, but or both companions would cry. And I just remember those are some of the best comp studies because, I don't know, interesting perceptions and insights about the gospel were learned, things about that person were learned, and it kind of made it really awesome to work with those people because it's like, okay, maybe that wasn't my experience or maybe you didn't have my experience, but we kind of understand each other better and it's awesome to work with you. And I think that goes for work too, like when you can find that common ground, it's like we're coming from the same background, kind of like we can do this. And I think it kind of creates camaraderie too, which is huge.
I totally agree. You need that unity to kind of glue you together, and there definitely are those people. It's a two-way thing. You can't just rely on one person to develop a relationship. Like, you both have to work at it. I know I personally had companions who kind of tried to do the whole like pushing away kind of method, and I'm all like, we're stuck for the next 6 weeks at least, so you better loosen up there, friend. It happened eventually, but there were times where I'm all like, do you enjoy living this way? Like, I don't know about you, but there's happier ways to live. So I don't know. Let's live happy, live smarter, not harder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so last but not least, the discussion question is, what things can we do individually to initiate effective team behavior? So I wanted to direct this question specifically to Cassidy because she's in a rough group situation right now. So what things, like, this is no pressure, and like it's, it's just like, what things do you think you could do to initiate that effective team feeling with the people you work with?
I think that I try really hard to be patient.
Mhm.
I usually don't make any comments. Sometimes I just kind of roll my eyes when I'm in my cubicle by myself. So, like, I try to be patient. I try not to complain. Like, I think if I can just kind of be more like Christ-like, I guess, and just have that patience and just do my best, and then also like reach out to others and see how I can help them. And if I do have that kind of relationship with them where I can kind of talk to them more on a personal level, and if I know that they're struggling, I can reach out to them and see if I can help them. And just, I think if you kind of create that camaraderie, it kind of will kind of spill over into everybody else, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of, and try, because a lot of people like complain, like kind of whispering, complaining around.
Oh yeah.
And so I never really participate. I mean, they'll complain to me, but I'll just kind of like bring out the positive, or just be like, oh, well, they're trying to fix it, or, try to, I try to kind of put that spin on it where it's not like, this isn't necessarily something you need to complain about, I guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion.
Maybe it's just the fact that they don't have anything else to really talk about that makes that what they always talk about with you, because in my experience, that was the case for me. Like that job that I worked at where everybody was scared of the supervisor, the people around me that I made friends with, it all happened through looking at stuff that they had on their desk and asking about it. Like if they have pictures, just asking them, who's that? Because if your desk is your home, because you're there like 40 hours a week. And so obviously everybody's going to try to kind of personalize it a little bit. So that might be a good foot in the door to kind of help people think outside themselves, or like at least share a bit of themselves. And then there's a stronger emotional connection that way. Any thoughts from anyone else? I don't know if I'm just being Dr. Phil here.
It's effective Dr. Philling.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think you're right, for sure.
And then it can just be, sorry?
Oh, sorry. I was just going to make a quick comment, but go ahead.
Oh, no, you're good. I was going to transition things, but go for it, Ernest.
I was just going to say, Cassidy, one of the things you mentioned earlier in the conversation is that you're only having monthly meetings, if I heard that right. Perhaps one of the things to bring up to the managers to maybe have those more frequently, maybe, every couple of weeks or once a week. Believe me, I'm not a big fan of meetings myself. But the other comment that I was going to make is, I know that a lot of times people think, well, I can't just keep talking about problems. I sound like I'm complaining. But, and I'm glad that you have a good relationship with your manager. I think it's important that he's aware of the issues. And if he's not aware of them, I think that you need to make him aware, so that, if he doesn't know it, a process is broken. He's not going to know. As a manager, he should know what's working and what's not working. But a lot of times it takes, people that are actually doing the job, to bring up, hey, this process is set up this way, but it's not working. And again, just being the change that you want to see. So if people are complaining and all they do is just complain for complaining and don't come up with a solution, say, okay, well, we know that there's a problem. what do you think we can do to fix it? And, kind of turn it into a positive. And, you do that, enough times, and then people are like, okay, well, if I don't have a solution, I better just stop complaining for the sake of complaining.
Right. No, I totally agree. More meetings would probably be beneficial for sure.
Good. I like solutions. Solutions are fantastic.
Something I've been thinking about quite a bit is like, it's a bit humbling, but I pretty much I've come to learn and believe that improvement always starts with you. I mean, maybe you're not instigating anything. You could totally be detached from a problem, but somehow it indirectly affects you. But I don't know. I think there's always a step of improvement that can be made. So maybe it's just how you treat people. Like, I've had some difficult coworkers, and I always was kind of like, avoid talking to them because I dreaded it, and I didn't want them to ask me to do stuff for them because sometimes the way they explain things seemed condescending, and I didn't like it. But at one point, I was kind of like, okay, I'm frustrated. I'm going to just try and be extra nice, and maybe I'll fix something. And long story short, it kind of did. And I saw other people who didn't make that effort, and so they're just like, I'm so frustrated with so-and-so, It's an ongoing problem, and I'm kind of like, oh, whatever, I'm okay. I mean, like, I understand why they're annoyed, but I think really, for me, I've had to learn to just kind of not blow off the problem, but like some things it's just like, whatever, just let it slide, and then also address it by just being more helpful. Like, okay, you're stressed out about this and you're having a hard time doing da-da-da-da, can I help with this? So at least putting in the offer to help or communicate differently, or just, I don't know. I think there's ultimately 3 options when there's a problem. 1, you can either learn to ignore it and not care anymore. 2, you can keep complaining and hate everything. Or 3, you can actually make an effort to try and change things, whether that requires communicating or not. So I think those are generally the 3 options. 1 being better than the others, but ultimately you can always do something. Maybe they won't change, but at least you'll feel differently about your life and not hate everything. So
that's super important. Any other thoughts about this last question number 5? All right. It's good if there's not, because we just hit our time. Yay! And we got our weekly meeting done, but it was great to get to know everyone and to hear your guys' thoughts. I think each of us are really effective team contributors from what I see in everyone. Like, I love hearing the feedback, and like each of you make super good points throughout the whole discussion. So thank you so much for participating and being fantastic. Is there any other comments from anyone before we call it?
Just a question. Am I the one in charge of the meeting next week? I can't even remember.
Yes. Parker, you're next week. The week after is going to be Ernesto, and the week after that is Suzanne. Cassidy, would you mind taking the week after that? That would be November 7th. It's being a discussion leader is the thing. So doing what I did, you facilitate the discussion, you read the questions as you go throughout the topic.
Yeah, I can do that. I can do the 7th.
Okay, and we'll review who's coming up next at the end of every lesson, because I'm sure everybody's going to be like worried about, am I next week? So I'm sure we'll remind each other.
Okay.
Sounds good. And then Soraya, do you feel comfortable with leading a discussion? If it's too intimidating, I think that's okay, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Yeah. I can do that if you... Ya voy! Sorry.
No, you're good.
It's my mom. Mami, no puedo. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. So would you be comfortable with that? We'd all totally participate, like no stress on you, just facilitate the discussion a bit. Would that be okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Your day would be November 14th, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. All right, my friends. I think we're good.
All right. We'll talk to you guys later.
All right. Have a good one. See you.
You
Okay,
too.
thanks everyone. Have a good night.
See ya.
You too.
Bye.